August 11th, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. It's my home, as is AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And now all of you who are listening at WCPT820.com and AM950Radio.com. And join the Morning Stars over here. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Join the Morning Stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And on Santita Jackson and Friends, I decided to share it with Reverend Jesse Jackson's page as well. And, of course, my Twitter, at Santita J, and the Santita Jackson Show. But at Santita J is where I really want you to go. So we're going to be talking about President Trump today. It seems that this raid on his home has supercharged his campaign. So, really, we want to know, it is also supercharged violent, not just rhetoric, because as a man speaketh and thinketh, so is he. We are seeing a lot of violent rhetoric that we've seen violence played out across the American landscape, and it's going to worsen. Can he do anything to quell it? Can he do anything to stop it? Will he do anything to stop it? Should he? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been around candidates who excite the people for whom they speak. Reverend Jesse Jackson's campaigns in the 80s. People were very, very excited and would have moved where he asked them to move. You saw that with President Obama. But one of the things I learned from him is that you handle things responsibly. And so I'm wondering if President Trump is going to do that. And then we're going to have Senator Nina Turner on with us. Yeah, that's right. Along with Senator Lena Taylor out of Wisconsin. But Senator Turner is going to talk to us about how Democrats can change the narrative. They were at the beginning of the week like, wow, President Biden had racked up all of these wins. And now, who has the big mo? Well, it seems that the Republicans do. So we're going to be talking about that. So let's get to some of these headlines. In Chicago, it's going to be a mild day today. 76 degrees, partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 84 degrees, partly cloudy. The Dow closed up 535 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 360 points. And the S&P 500 closed up 87 points. In Major League Baseball, the Royals 8, the White Sox 3 yesterday. The Cubs will be playing Cincinnati today. The Dodgers 8, the Twins 5 yesterday. In the WNBA, the Lynx 86, the Mercury 77, and the Sky will be facing off against the Aces today. Americans are dealing with these gas prices. They've been at historic levels of inflation, and they're finally getting some relief at the gas pump. According to CNN, for the first time since March, the national average price for regular gasoline dropped below $4 a gallon today, according to AAA. This comes after gas prices hit a record high of $5.02 in June. It was much higher than that. It was $10 a gallon in many places throughout the United States. And progressives in Congress have been calling the gas industry out, big oil out. They said, wait a minute, you're arbitrarily raising prices, and I don't think we should get accustomed to $4 a gallon. We should get these prices down further to where they were before. How about that, everybody? 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. My dear friend Michael Douglas, love you. Keith Fluid, love you. These are my buddies. Facebook users, how you doing, sweetie? Charlotte Cummings, and sending you all much love. Much, much, much love today. Former President Donald Trump invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and declined to answer questions from the New York Attorney General at a scheduled deposition on Wednesday. He was to be deposed by lawyers from New York Attorney General Letitia James's office as part of a more than 3-year investigation into the Trump Organization's finances. Of course, that has nothing to do with the presidency. This particular investigation is about his own business practices. Praying for our brothers and sisters and our neighbors to the east in Indiana. 3 people died and 39 homes were damaged on Wednesday after a massive house explosion in Evansville, Indiana. What happens in Evansville? Remember that plane crash years ago with the basketball team? My heart just breaks for Evansville. 11 of those 39 homes were left inhabitable, according to their fire department chief, uh, Michael Connolly, adding that there could be some additional victims upon completion of the search. Praying for them, everybody. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on Wednesday directed the IRS not to use any of the new funding allocated in the Democrats' new healthcare and climate bill to increase the number of audits of Americans making less than $400,000 a year. Well, they're going to hire 86 to 87,000 more agents. We will see how all of this works out. Something really sad. Of course, we were all devastated by the death of Kobe Bryant. Well, it turns out his wife, Vanessa Bryant, has had to go to court to sue because LA County employees were sharing photos of all the victims of the crash. I mean, the photos were quite graphic and gruesome. Didn't know that Kobe Bryant had been decapitated in the crash, and he was sitting with their daughter, and there were pictures that they would take to bars and to private places. This became like a gruesome free-for-all for them, and so she is suing, and so we pray for the Bryant family today, because it's a horrible thing. You can imagine how she must feel. President Trump is spewing all of this. Goodness gracious. More than 400 times he pled the fifth, everybody. And so we will see how this goes. 70% of Americans support deciding state abortion rights by ballot measure. States' rights is something we continue to fight, everybody. A Nebraska mother and daughter are facing abortion charges after Facebook shared their chats with the police. What do you think about that? Call me at 773-763-9278. There's a judge who just ruled that Walgreens substantially contributed, in their words, to a San Francisco opioid crisis. Pharmacy giant, according to this Common Dreams report, Walgreens substantially contributed to San Francisco's opioid crisis by shipping hundreds of thousands of suspicious orders, as they put it, of highly addictive prescription drugs as part of a profit-driven fill culture. Numbing Americans out, I guess, so that we don't really feel our pain. I don't think so, everybody. And wow, is this interesting. The DOJ, the Department of Justice, has charged an Iranian over an alleged plot to assassinate John Bolton. Now, John Bolton, one of the leading government figures in the space of security. Of course, you should remember he bragged just a few weeks ago about plotting coup d'etats. And coups always involve death. That's very interesting, everybody. More than 70 economists say that the U.S. must return $7 billion that the United States stole from the Afghan people. And those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Hey, Pastor Darius Brooks, sending you much love today. And, of course, sending much love to your great church, Grace Central in Westchester, Illinois. Where are you, and how can we get something to eat? I know I ask you that every week, but I know somebody out there needs some food. You're seeing more and more people. Indeed, you've had to expand your food ministry very quickly. Before you give us the good news, what is your address, and how can we get something to eat?
Grace Central Church, 10216 South Kitchener Street, Westchester, Illinois. Is right off 290 in Manheim. Every Tuesday from 5 till 7 p.m. for the audience and for the masses. And on Wednesdays from 12 noon till 2, so the seniors doesn't come out in the morning. We supply food for them on Wednesdays. And Santita ain't no peanut butter and jelly. It's $200 and $300 worth of food in boxes that they have to come with push buggies to get each individual. We feed between 200 and 600 families every Tuesday from 5 till 7, and on Wednesdays from noon till 2.
Amen to that. And everybody, please, this is what they're doing, God's work. So please, even if you're not a member of Grace Central, please send them a love offering so that they can continue this ministry. This is the work of the church. Should also be the work of the government, because these are our resources. But thank you so much for that, Pastor Darius Brooks. What's the good news?
The good news, and that is showed up right today. The more you study, God gives you an amazing GPS. amazing GPS. Romans 14 and 22 says, watch this, to keep your belief about such matters between yourself and your God. Woo, girl, listen, blessed is the one who does not condemn himself by what he approves. You got to read that when you get a second. I'm going to send it to you, Romans 14, 22. And if I had to use for a topic this morning, it's to be my best, I must see my best. To be my best, I must see myself my best. And girl, I get excited when I study. I'm telling you, Cynthia, what is it about God or what you believe that you find appealing? What keeps you believing? Whatever it is, it's a reflection of who you are. Dreaming makes one hope. Discipline makes one desires come true. Some people spend their whole life, Santita, or the majority of their life searching, watch this, for what's right, but can't seem to find any time to practice it. Santita, knowing what is right to do and then not doing it is what's wrong. More than anything, we are people, positive or negative. Your life story is not written with a pen, but with your action. To do nothing is the way to have or be nothing. When you wrestle with something, Santita, it ultimately loses its grip. When you confront the thing that you're fearful of, you open the door to personal liberty. Take action. Don't wait to be motivated. Nothing is more exhausting than searching for easy ways to do things. You cannot build a reputation on what you're going to do. Your reputation is built on what you've done, what you've accomplished. I started writing again, Santita, because I read something that said you cannot rest on your laurels or the things you've done yesterday. You have to create through God's word a promise that he says you can have. But see, that every time I talk to you, we talked about this the other day, you throw wisdom and don't even know it. I just heard you say today, people should handle things responsibly. Ooh, girl, I'll be listening to you. And Santita, you cannot use 2010 stuff in 2022. And when you do become responsible, they be their best and they can see it. My topic today, to be my best, I must see my best.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And nothing comes to you without hard work. You have to work. You have to work. Reverend Johnny Coleman used to say, it works when you work it. You have to work. Nothing comes to sleepers but a dream. Thank you. That's the Gap Band. And it's true. It's true. You have to work. You have to work. And I'm so glad that you're writing because, you're one of the most brilliant songwriter producers in modern gospel. And you've given us so many great classics. And we're so grateful for all that you do. Just very quickly again, how can we get this food? Because, it's amazing. People are really hungry out here and they're walking around and you think that they're doing okay. You think that they're doing okay. And you would be surprised. Some people who are in your offices with you, I found this, there was someone who a friend of mine dated in New York. This is when I was there 30 years ago. And we all went out to lunch one day. It was just a few of us. We just finished working, and after a session we went to work and, he leaned over to me, he said, I need to share something with you. So we talked. It turns out his girlfriend who we knew, and she was not the best fit for everybody, but, he loved her. So he liked her. So we loved her, and it turns out he had found out that she was living in her office. She couldn't afford an apartment. And so she was living in her office and she'd go to the gymnasium in her office building and she would shower in the morning, but that is where she lived. That is where she lived. A lot of people, you don't know what people are going through. You have no idea. No idea. And so I think what you're doing with your food ministry is so important because so many people out here would, I mean, when you see these empty shelves, that's a supply chain issue, and only heaven knows where that really comes from. But people cannot
Mhm.
afford the food that that they need to buy. They can't afford
And
it,
see, yeah,
and you're
it's
seeing
very
it.
true. And your dad also taught me, which is what makes me see and do the things godly. I want to stay in God's will.
Hmm.
I always want to stay in God's will. I don't care what's happening. I don't care what nobody thinks. That's the best place for me, and that's the best place for me to help others. Your father taught me something that changed my life forever. Eyesight with no insight is twilight, which is
Hmm.
what you just said.
Hmm.
You cannot live other people's lives, but you also got to be so in tune with God's promises for you that He don't send blessings to you. He sends blessings through you. And when He can't send blessings through you, Santita, if you watch a lot of people, He stops sending blessings to you. I believe that in my heart. That's why we got to always be available to assist people. I'm excited about what Grace Central is doing. And it ain't even to market the food, but just to see these people. If you came by one Tuesday, Santita, and just watch these people coming, they're grateful, they're gracious, ladies and with walkers, and they come in. And what's crazy amazing is my volunteer team. When I tell you every Tuesday, Santita, come hell or high water, they are there.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness, you can make me cry. Helping these people, putting groceries in boxes and carts and taking them to their car. And Santita, this is every Tuesday,
Hmm.
not just the holidays, but every Tuesday. So whoever you know that needs food, we ride off for 290 in Manheim every week. And we give good stuff now. Jiffy mix, produce, eggs, butter, milk, ham, turkey, cheese, tomato, you name it.
Hmm. Oh yeah, no, but it's important to know because people need it and they won't tell you that they need it because also we treat people contemptuously when we find out that they are in need. We don't, we lord it over people. If we don't do it now, we do it later. And that's a sad thing. You know where
Okay,
you've
let me go
been.
with this word again.
Well, you know what Reverend
Contemptuous.
Evans' wife used to say, you know where you've been. You don't know where you're going. That was the first lady of my church,
That's
Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church. You don't know what's around the corner for you. But you shouldn't even, and you know what? That might not be around the corner for you, but you should try to help
true.
somebody other than yourself. My mother says, you can't help someone without helping yourself. You will be a better person for having helped
Yeah.
someone. You will. And so I thank God for you today. Uh, Pastor Darius Brooks, I'm glad that you've expanded your ministry beyond music, even though that was more than enough. But God called you, you listened to God's call, and you have been obedient. And we need people like you. We need servants, people who have a servant's heart, someone who lifts up his wife, who lifts up his child. And you've been an example for a lot of people in your church. And a lot of people in your church, what I love is that many of them are struggling with addiction problems, trying to keep their families together, don't have money. But it's a humble church. It's a beautiful church. It's a growing church. And certainly Grace Central needs your support. Even if you just go over there and
And
help
then
give out some of the food, please do it. Yes.
volunteer. Santita, thank you, because you know what? You just really blessed me. And I'm not just saying this. I don't hear that a lot. I know
Hmm.
people think I'm Darius Brooks with awards and doing things. Santita,
And
what
you
you just
are.
shared with me.
And you are.
But I honestly don't hear a lot what you just shared with me. And I was trying to process it because it feels good for people to celebrate you or tell you things. I don't look for it, but it just feels good. And I just
Mhm.
wanted to tell you for real, thank you. Because what you just said right there, I was just quiet because I was soaking it in. But thank you. Thank you.
Well, I
Thank you.
thank you
Thank you.
because there's so many times, Darius Brooks is one of the most. I remember talking to Twinkie Clark, and I said, I was working with Darius Brooks. She said, "Oh, girl, you don't need to talk to me. Darius is the best." And the legendary Twinkie Clark has that kind of respect for Darius Brooks, but everybody who sees you, they're like, "Oh,
Wow.
I don't have to worry about you, Santita. You are working with the absolute best." And you know what, everybody? I've never had to pay him a dime. He would just come.
They never
Now, mind you, he's given me heart attacks when my grandfather died, and he was not at the funeral yet, and I needed to sing. I literally walked up to the mic and Darius slid into the bench to play the organ because he literally had flown in. Oh, no, look, I will never get over that because my heart was in my throat. I said, I'm going to have to do this a cappella, which I can do. Just didn't want to have to do it that way. I was going to sing it a cappella before somebody messed me up. So there's that. But I just love you and I appreciate you. And I appreciate First Lady Deborah. I appreciate your baby Dasha, who's on her way back to school. And one day you're going to have to come on this show and talk about your journey because you have created a family that you, in fact, did not have growing up. And as a man, I'd like for you to talk about that and just how you had to study marriages and figure out marriage. And, you know, there's just so much that you have got to share. And we just love you, Pastor Darius Brooks.
I'm so honored and humble. Thank you, Santita.
Love you, love you. Again, what is your address and what are the days that you get out the food?
Grace Central Church, 10216 South Kitchener Street, Westchester, Illinois. Kitchen ER, like Kitchen ER, Westchester, Illinois. Every Tuesday from 5 till 7 is for the open to the public. And then Wednesday is Seniors Day from noon till 2 where we feed the seniors. Every Tuesday, Grace Central Church, 10216 South Kitchener Street, Westchester, Illinois. GraceCentral.net, GraceCentral.net.
And you will not be turned away. You will not be turned away. You will not be turned away. I don't care what you're driving. I don't care what you're wearing. You will not be turned away. And everybody, we need to turn to each other. One of the reasons my father gives out food during the holidays and kept push open during the pandemic, which we're still in, my father had to stand in a food line. His scholarship money ran out when he was at the University of Chicago. And he was working a job and he was driving for Reverend Evans. He was doing all kinds of things. But the scholarship money ran out. My mother had a job at the bookstore. The scholarship money ran out. All the little things they were trying to do with students, and they had 2 children. They were expecting a third. Reverend Evans pulled him out of the line. He said, son, you're going to be a pastor. Why didn't you tell me that you were struggling with food? And there was not a week that went by from that moment forward that Reverend Evans did not have food delivered to my parents' little campus apartment just to make sure that we ate. And I thank God for that. And that's part of my family story. And so that's part of the reason that these food ministries touch me so, because they fed my family when we had nothing.
I want to tell somebody under your voice right now that you just reminded me. It was a pastor that came to my church, and he knows my wife. And he called my wife and told her he was out. I will never say any names, that he needed some food. He needed some food. And he said he didn't want anybody to know. And do you know, wow, that absolutely on the side of the church, she texted me and she said, Darius, I call her Wonderful. So she says, Darius, guess who at the church? And I said, who? And she texted the name. She said, they was in line for some food, but he texted me and came out of the church because he didn't want nobody to see me. Whoever you are, do not be ashamed.
Please don't.
Ask for what you need. Yeah,
I got to get out of here. But tell people. Okay. That's why when I had COVID, I told you. And I told you what I did to try to really accelerate my process of getting better. Tell people. Yeah. Don't function in shame. Coming up. Right. Nina Turner, everybody. I love you, Pastor Darius Brooks. Effie Ralph just sent you some love. She said Darius Brooks is the greatest pastor, and that's the truth. We love you. Love you. Senator Nina Turner coming up on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in just a minute. Thank you, Darius. I love you.
Explosive new.
I love you too more. You already know that. You already know that. Hey, listen. You know who called me yesterday?
Who?
John Mitchell. Are we off the air?
You know, we're actually on Facebook. You need to call me.
Got to remember to do your testing.
Yes, dude. I'm gonna call you.
Okay. Is everything all right?
Life with diabetes is with a
yeah, but I just want to run something by you that I know you know. But I'll call you.
Can you do it real quick right now on my phone?
Levels, helping you spend more time
Okay, do that.
Freeing you
Okay.
from painful finger pricks. If you test your blood sugar at least 4 times per day and inject insulin at least 3 times per day, or use an insulin pump and have
what
private
is all
insurance or
this?
Medicare, you might be eligible for a CGM with little or no cost to you. Call U.S. Medical Supply today for a free benefits check. We offer free shipping, 90-day
Hey.
supplies, and we bill Medicare or your insurance directly. Call
Mhm.
now and say goodbye to finger pricks.
800-417-0851. 800-417-0851. 800-417-0851. That's 800-417-0851.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820. You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic and weather updates.
8094 eastbound traffic is packed solid from Indianapolis Boulevard to
No, but I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
blocking 2 left lanes.
I wouldn't doubt it. They have, there's a lot of reorganizing that they need to do. A lot of reorganizing.
Traveling on the
Senator Turner's on.
Traffic slows Canfield Central. 21 minutes from O'Hare to downtown Chicago.
Well, I mean, look, I don't hear everything, but that's not something that we would not know. And it's not surprising. It's just, it's hard. And it's amazing with all the people that he's helped that this is where we are.
Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
But he has to reorganize everything too, because carrying too many people who don't produce.
63. Friday, partial sunshine develops on 77 degrees. Saturday is slight
Oh, absolutely.
Storms.
Okay, honey, thank you here and appreciate you. Okay,
Sunday, sunny high 81 degrees. And the Weatherology Weather Center.
Senator Turner's on.
Okay. Senator Turner, how are you, sweetie?
Hey, FJ, good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, girl, I am doing well. I'm going to have one of your friends on with you.
University,
Lena.
Okay.
But I need you to set the table on the Democratic narrative. But you do. Let's talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love.
Okay. Because I saw something that I wanted to share with you, and I thought about you. And I said, "Oh, she needs to know what we've been through." And because I've shared some things with you before. And
you always do.
Well, I always try because there's a lot of there's so much that we've lived that we have not. We keep on living. But when
Senator
you can,
Taylor's on.
okay, thank you. When you can, when both of you can, Lena Taylor, Nina Turner. There we go. Y'all are together.
Our differences
Okay. Hey, Senator.
100% unique. Just
Good morning.
you. 100%
Good morning.
passionate.
But what?
determined,
I was
and
sharing with her, Senator Taylor,
25%.
that there was
15 seconds.
my father's
100%
announcement
included.
was
Easter Sets
interrupted
is a
twice
10.
in November of 1983, and I'll tell you about that.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Okay. Stand by. By the same forces that tried to take you out.
And then I wasn't able to get your pearl.
Oh, just keep trying her, okay? Just keep trying her. Thanks so much.
Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station at AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. How can Democrats change the narrative? At the beginning of the week, things looked so bright. In fact, there was one headline I read that Democrats just got a sign that the midterms might not be so brutal. But then things changed, because once President Trump's home was raided by the FBI, it seems that Republicans got the big momentum, and they're saying that even 2 years ahead of the elections, really 1 year ahead of the primary season, a year and a half, that he needs to announce that he's running for president, and that's it. We're not going to take it anymore. They are very, 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 very excited. And I want to know what your thoughts are, Matt, up there. I want to hear your voice up there at AM 950 radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Effie, you need to call in sometime. Lenny or Bob, I want to hear these voices. I see you. I see you. I see you, Linda. I see you, Joyce and Jewel. But I want to hear what your thoughts are. We've got Wisconsin State Senator, the runaway senator, Lena Taylor. Such a brilliant public servant and lawyer, and just a willing servant to her community and to the broader community, standing up for our rights all day, every day. And then, of course, former state senator Lena Turner, Senator Nina Turner. What can we say about Nina Turner? We can depend upon her to be the voice of the downtrodden, not just locally, not just statewide, but nationally. We want you to keep on running and keep on. Don't never stop, Nina, so that because we need you. We really, 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 really need you. And you need to do what Reverend Jackson did when he ran for president. He didn't go inside the party and get his voters. He had been, unbeknownst to him, he had been speaking at high schools and grammar schools for years. And so when it came time for him to run for president, these people were inclined to get registered. They followed him and they got registered to vote. Bring your own voters to the party and then we'll see what happens. You hear me, Nina Turner, Senator Turner?
Yeah, I hear you. Absolutely.
Bring your, because they're there. They're just not registered. And they are looking for someone to follow. But let me start with you. What is going on with the Democrats? Talk to me. At the, President Biden's numbers, they moved just a little bit. He's at 40% approval, but those numbers are not good. That having been said, at the beginning of the week, it was clear that he was starting to rack up some victories and they were piling up, and that was a good thing, Of course, the inflation bill, while there are some parts of it that we question, that was a win for him. And you can just keep on going down the line. But now with the FBI going to President Trump's house and retrieving these documents, allegedly going through his wife's closet, and there's just so much that we do not know. There's stuff that we're hearing on television. I wish Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, would come out and make some kind of statement, and so that we can deal with the facts. Because right now we're dealing with speculation, and quite frankly, that makes me very uncomfortable. I don't like any of it. And so I can't call the former president a criminal, Senator Turner and Senator Taylor, because the thing is, I don't know yet. And just coming out of the civil rights movement and knowing that arrests and indictments and accusations are political. Because anytime we're not going to talk about the run on the presidency of 2000, the Brooks Brothers riots, which was January 6th, but they were just wearing suits, you can't talk to me. The Supreme Court intervening in that election, you can't talk to me. I mean, and I don't like malfeasance, whether it comes from the right or the left. Senator Turner, where are the Democrats now? And what is the narrative, and how can they catch up, change up? I don't know. Talk to me.
Well, change up is the word. Just about what you said about the alphabet boys. They're very complicated, especially for Black people, and Black people need to be careful. So just because we know that Trump is a neo-fascist, we got that on the table, we get it. Does not absolve us from our responsibility to understand the complexities, not in his situation, but historically. And Black people, we never had the convenience to leave history behind. And we got to understand we can't comport ourselves like everybody else and get all caught up in this because of our history with the alphabet boys. Now, what the right-wingers are doing, they crime bloody murder, and now they want to, get rid of the FBI and all that kind of stuff. Where was this outcry when the FBI was wiretapping people like Minister Malcolm X? Where was the outcry against alphabet boys when they were wiretapping people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Move in Philly, the Black Panther Party, and so many others. I'm just scratching the surface here.
You mean my
where
family?
Was that outcry? Right, the Jackson. Where was this outcry about let's get rid of the FBI and the Alphabet Boys? So again, Black people don't have any sympathy or empathy for Mr. Trump in this situation. All I'm saying is that we don't need to jump on in this. Let's just all sit back and get the popcorn and wait this one out, because we know the dangers of the Alphabet Boys. We know what happened under J. Edgar Hoover, and what even continues to happen to this very day. What's stirring the pot with Black Lives Matter and all of that. So I'm gonna put that in the parking lot. Change up, FJ. Some of the stuff is too little, too late. Black folks need to stop being complicit in our own demise, and the Democratic Party is doing the bare minimum. That bill, the IRA, maybe a few little trinkets here and there that might be good. I wouldn't argue that, but overall, does it change the material conditions for people in this country, and it doesn't change it enough in time. See, they had a whole bunch of time to get this stuff done, and they are doing the bare minimum. So now it's not just about the message. It really comes down to the substance. And I believe that people, not just the African-American community, but poor people, working class people are beginning to see that they are being played by a system that bends towards the will of the ultra-wealthy and the corporate interests in this country. I mean, how do you get folks? Let me just give a couple of examples. And all of these examples that I'm about to give had a path, would have had a positive or disproportionate positive impact on the Black community. So let me just use Senator Bernard Sanders as the example. I mean, when you got this man in the Senate putting forth amendments to make the bill better, and then you got neoliberals, black and white, then why is he doing that? Because those of you who don't understand the legislative process, and I'm glad my sister here, Senator Taylor, can back me up on this, even if there's a bill that you're in love with, if you feel so compelled to put an amendment on the bill to make it better, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what the process is about. But cut Medicare drug prices by 50%, 99-1 in the Senate. Expand Medicare. That means expand it so that the seniors who are navigating life right now in this moment can have vision, dental, and hearing. The vote was 97-3. Create the civilian corporate, the civilian climate corps, similar to what was in the New Deal, 98-1. Extend the child tax credit, 97-1. Strike fossil fuel breaks, 99-1. And I can go on and on and on and on. Even Senator Warnock put forth an amendment to deal with Medicaid. That means helping the poor of the poor got struck down by Democrats. So all I'm saying, insulin prices, let's cap them at $35. Now, two things. The Republicans are useless, because every one of them, I mean, they voted against it. It might have been 2 or 3 who voted for it, but they voted against it. But let me just tell you, the parliamentarian told the Democratic majority that they could not, that insulin was not budgetary, meaning now we got to force a 60 vote versus a 50-1. 50-50, and then have the vice president come in and set the tie. So these are the kinds of things that will move voters that Democrats failed to do. Get rid of the filibuster. My last point, cancel student debt. Now, you got the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, so I'm not in love with, but on this one, they're right, begging the president to cancel student debt. You got organizations like NAACP begging the president to cancel student debt. And I'm only giving 2 Black organizations. There are other organizations that have people of all walks of life who are trying to push the president to cancel student debt. That student debt has yet to be canceled. He has the authority under the Education Act of 1965. So the same authority that he has to pause student debt is the same authority that he has by executive order to cancel federal student debt. You know what the highest student debt? Black women. So if Democrats really, really cared what Black America thought, you got 2 leading Black organizations in America telling the president cancel student debt. Last time I checked, Black people vote for Democrats over 90%, and yet we sit here today on the 11th of August, student debt has not been canceled.
And the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, voting rights.
And don't forget voting rights. Exactly. Yeah. All of it.
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm with, two sisters, from another mister. I've got Senator Nina Turner on one hand, I've got Senator Lena Taylor on the other. Uh, I think you are in agreement. Is there anything that you can do? Do you think that the narrative needs to be changed? Do you think that they were on the verge of changing the narrative, or was it not going far enough? Because we're seeing in the polling, his numbers, President Biden's numbers, softening with Black people. He still has. We are at the core of his support still, but Senator Taylor, we're not. I mean, and now the Republicans are very excited. I mean, incited and excited. So talk to me. What about this Democratic narrative? What do you see? And is there anything that can be done to arc it in the direction of victory in the fall?
Well, there's no question that the Republicans are excited. I mean, you mentioned the FBI raid and that encouraged the Republicans to get excited. In Wisconsin, we had our primary and we had a guy that got in the gubernatorial race, at the last minute who was endorsed by President Trump. And he took out the candidate that had been working on becoming the gubernatorial candidate, for some time. She was a former lieutenant governor that ran under Scott Walker. And when I tell you that he came in and, beat her by a few points, and in addition to that, you have a person who is a former president in our state Senate that was having challenges, I would say, with Senate leadership. And then you have our Speaker of the Assembly was challenged by an opponent who was endorsed by Trump and who also had an endorsement of a gentleman that's doing an investigation of the 2020 election. And when I say that the Speaker won only by 160 votes, Republicans clearly are charged in a different way. And that charge has moved, I'm going to call Trumpsters, to more power in our state. He did win Wisconsin by, less than 24,000, 25,000 votes. So when you say, are they charged? First of all, yes, they're charged. When you say, do Democrats have to address the messaging? Most definitely. Everything my sister said, is true. And to see how quick President Biden and the Democrats, I can't believe I said Biden.
Yes.
Lord, I guess I was trying to go back. But when I see that they immediately after Roe versus Wade were able to go in and, do some, make some statements in regards to, the rights of women, that's the kind of action people are looking for on Voting Rights Act. Those are the kind of actions that people are looking for, on police reform, on the concept of just seeing Black Americans be slaughtered, without guns by the police. And this doesn't mean that all police are wrong or are horrible. That's not the point. The point is that you can have someone do a massacre of individuals and be armed and not Black, and be transported to Burger King to get a sandwich before they get taken in. Mm-hmm. But unarmed Black folks, are hunted down, kneeled on, and so many other things. So we need to see the things that touch home. When you can do, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that there can be negotiation of drug costs at the federal level. Well, let me back up and say that when Tommy Thompson, the former governor of Wisconsin, as the Department of Health, did the work in the first place, he failed to put in what we created in Wisconsin under his leadership, senior care, which was to negotiate the cost of prescription drugs. And then guess what? Retired and made some money from pharmaceutical and health industry. So The fact that now they're making it where we can negotiate drug prices, but you pull out the costs that directly affect so many Americans, and especially Americans that look like me.
Well, you know, Robert.
So,
Well, let me share this with you. Robert Williams, who's one of the Morning Stars, says Biden hasn't hardly met with any Black American groups about the issues and concerns of Black Americans that he and Kamala ran on. These are his words. What do you say about that? I mean, and it's not just Black Americans. I mean, you know, you've got the Latino community, you've got the Asian community, you've got poor people, you've got the LGBTQ plus, but they seem to get taken care of far quicker than we, people of color, Black people in particular. What do you say about that? I mean, because Gerald Griggs, the president of the Georgia NAACP, has been calling for President Biden to enact an executive order for voting rights and for justice and policing, but specifically voting rights. He said that needs to happen. Of course, it would only last the length of his presidency, but we need it now. People are being purged from the voter rolls right now. And it's like the Democrats don't even hear that. I mean, Greg Palast has reported on it. David Daley, New York Times bestselling author, senior fellow at Fair Vote, he's been talking about it. I'm like, are you kidding? We're underrepresented in both houses of Congress. Talk to me. What is this? Nina and Lena? Nina, you, and then you, Lena? Well, Lena, go on. I mean, it's just what?
That's my point. That's my point. And I'll just say again that when you have a base of people who have walked with you and walked on coals of fire to support you regardless, that's what Black folks have done for Democrats. That's what Black women have done, especially for Democrats. That's what people who have been the voiceless and downtrodden have done for Democrats. And so when you say what has to happen, they've got to address the issues that matter to the people so that they can feel it at home and they can feel heard. And I'm saying to you, those issues always seem to tweak their way out of whatever is getting done. And I was using insulin, voting rights, and criminal justice as a direct example of things that were promised, things that were campaigned on, and promises that have not been kept. And that kind of turnout in places like Wisconsin, where the victory is, 20,000, you need turnout in a way that can make the difference. I'm concerned because, don't get me wrong, yes, we vote more in general, but the number of people that voted in the primary was significantly less. We were less than 400,000. They were more than 500,000.
Ooh. Well,
meaning Democrats and Republicans.
Well, Nina, did you see that in Ohio and as in other places where you've been traveling around the country?
I mean, people are really fed up. I mean, I think my sister and I, all three of us, are just laying this out. And so it's up to the people. We gave people power, and they need to use that power for the benefit of the everyday person in this country instead of the power of money interests. What we're dealing with in the 21st century, and it's sad to say, I mean, this is the new, and even Dr. Robert Reich talks about this all the time. I mean, we are in the second iteration of the Gilded Age, where the have-nots have even less, and the have-mores have it all, and they get to decide and dictate. It is legal in this country, and this is not over the top. This is not hyperbole. It is legal in the United States of America to bribe politicians. It just is. And so we need people to come together, the people who are catching the hell, to come together no matter how they identify and make some demands. It always boggles my mind. I would love to know what you both think about this. Is that how do we as Americans continue to make, Democrats in particular, because Democrats do it more than Republicans, continue to make excuses about why the most powerful people in the world can't get things done. Yet, back in the hoods, where people are misunderstood, whether it's a rural hood, or urban hood, or suburban hood, we would not allow those same excuses. I mean, I have grandchildren, 2-year-old, 1-year-old, and hell, they wouldn't get away with making the kinds of excuses that we allow the people with the most power to make. You said you wanted a majority. You got the majority. Now you got the majority. It ain't enough of a majority. You won't do anything about the filibuster. I mean, you won't be out there and have a righteous indignation. So that's why I say, no, it's not about changing the narrative. It is about doing the work that changes material conditions, so then the narrative will take care of itself. We get caught up on what can the Democrats say or do to make voters come out, what they can do. That's the part we should focus on. You know, right now, as I continue to put out there, the president can cancel student debt right now, there was an article that really laid out, for example, that 40% of black folks, they want it done. And they saying we might not come out to vote. So what do these neoliberal, support any blue, no matter who do?
What is that
now,
crazy?
They want to jump on me and jump on the black people who said we might not come out if you don't cancel student debt. Instead of saying, Mr. President, cancel student debt. Democrats fight like your political lives depend on it. Stop putting the onus of saving the Democratic Party on the voters and make the people who we gave the power act like their seats are in jeopardy. Act like the Republicans are the threat that they are instead of the other way around.
Amen. And look, don't save the party, save the people. We've got this twisted up. Take that and run with it, okay? Don't save the party, save the people. That's all I'm talking about. That's all I want to hear. Senator Turner, where can we hear you, see you? Do you still have your podcast? Talk to me. I got a minute.
Yeah, hello, somebody. People can go and find that, and they can find me on social media at Nina Turner, Ohio on the gram, at Nina Turner on Twitter. Nothing but love.
Well, either I'm going to have to come to Cleveland and see you, or you're going to have to come to Chicago. We're going to have to work that out. Maybe I'll come.
We'll work that out, love.
Maybe I'll come to Cleveland. Always have fun. Somewhere between Cleveland and Beechwood and Shaker. All my friends out there. My prom date was from Cleveland. Did you know that?
I think you told me that before.
Girl.
Come on to Cleveland.
Oh, absolutely. I love Cleveland, and I love you. I love you. I love you. Love you. Senator Nina Turner, everybody. Keep on running, Senator Turner, and keep on registering those people to vote because they need you to represent them. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to leave it at that. We're starting there. Bring your own voters to the party, Nina. Next.
Yes.
I keep telling you that. You ain't gonna say it no more. Yeah, I'm gonna keep saying it. That's what we need her to do. Everybody, let's talk about President Trump. There is a violent spirit in the air. Violent spirit. Can he quell it? Is it about him? Is it not about him? Is it about people and their problems? Because guess what? Folks are hungry out here. And they like him because they feel that he'll fight for them. Can he quell this violence? He has a history of being an accelerant to it. So let's talk about this. What is he going to do? What should be done? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT and AM 950 Radio in just a few minutes. Nina Turner, did you leave me yet?
Yeah, she left.
Oh, okay. Lena Taylor, are you still with me, girl?
Wanting to keep their jobs and help the company.
I am.
Thank you very much.
Workers accepted concessions to allow GM to
Thank
recover.
you.
GM received a bailout and tax breaks, while the employees' pay rates stayed the
This
same.
stuff. How you doing? How are you feeling?
Stayed to close down. The raising price of healthcare premiums.
I'm feeling very well. I'm coming along great.
Okay. Are you able to walk around yet?
I'm moving around now.
2019.
Okay.
Workers got together, protesting outside.
Now, do you have any pain?
Signs and giant inflatable rats. And after 6
You know,
months of
I just
protest,
have that tightness and that stiffness, not really
they were willing
pain in the same way
auto
anymore.
workers received a 3% pay raise.
Okay.
Factories staying open with
So that's the good part. That's
Okay.
the good part. Not any pain like before, but that stiffness that, you know. Woo.
This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working.
I
for
heard
your
that.
rights. Hire
Well,
with minimal
just,
effort
you
and
know.
maximum
Now, you know, it's not just Kenny, will he?
Dwight McKee's on.
Your cans
Oh,
officially
Because he
absolutely.
didn't in January.
slash credit.
Honey, we're gonna go through all of it. You know, but also
Yes, ma'am.
this is this is really about so much more than him. You know, and we have to be clear on that. Because people really they like him because they like him and they like Bernie Sanders because they feel that they're going to slug it out. And the thing is, remember, he started getting booed when he was speaking in support of the vaccines.
Yep.
Okay, you got to be real careful with the crowd because the crowd is with you as long as you speak for them. When they feel that you are not speaking for them, that you are not
Speaking their truth. Yep.
baby, that's curtains for you, and that goes for anybody.
Yep. They'll leave you quick right there standing by your
Bryce Green is on.
Mm-hmm. And that goes for any and everybody. Thank you so much, Cosme. Have you met Bryce Green, Senator Taylor?
I have not.
Oh, this young man is so brilliant. He's coming on right now. He is so brilliant. I met him. I've met him virtually. He's a writer with fairness and accuracy in reporting. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant young man. Some of the most insightful, incisive, and well-investigated pieces on what's really happening in Ukraine that you ever want to read. And but I just have a tremendous amount of respect for his intellect and for his principles. And so he's with us today. I'm sorry, who is with us?
Attorney Jones. Everyone is up.
Okay, and we have Dwight McKee.
Yep, everyone's up.
Okay, so who do we have? Just give me a count. Let me know.
We have Dwight McKee, Senator Taylor, Bryce Green, and Attorney Jones.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, everyone. Senator Lena Taylor, Attorney Darrell Jones, Bryce Green, and Dwight McKee. We ought to have a grand old time talking about President Trump and this violent environment in which we find ourselves. Sending you all much love. But we're already here in this violent environment, and it's not pretty. Not pretty at all.
Under the Federal Controlled Substances Act.
I was asking Dwight yesterday. I said, "Where do you think where's this violence going?" He was like, "It's already here," and he's right. It is already here.
Ms. Jackson, I have Chaparral on too, so she can do her live read.
Oh boy. Actually, I need her at the bottom of the next hour. I'm at the bottom of the hour because I already have a live read.
Did you want to tell her because she's
yes,
on
yes,
the line?
Yes. Yeah.
I think she could hear you.
Okay, Chaparral.
This is 8:20.
Yes, I'm here, Santita.
Sweetie, can I bring you on at 7:30?
And streaming worldwide.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Because I need to get right into what we're doing.
Where facts matter.
Okay, so Cosme, please bring her on at 7:30.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Chicago traffic update.
Right now, 43rd Street up to north of Pershing at Archer Avenue. This is for shooting investigation. Inbound Kennedy Expressway delays during Cumberland. Travel time here to downtown is 31 minutes. 13 from Montrose, 12 from the Express. Downtown 23 minutes downtown to the airport. 8 in Squad 17 minutes from Lakeville Junction. Inbound Eisenhower delays during St. Charles. 35 minutes, 390 downtown. Stevenson 30 minutes from the Veterans Quarter from South Lakeshore Drive. 19 minutes from 95th to downtown. North on Tri-State, we're seeing slow traffic from the Mile Long Bridge to Stevenson. 47 from Logan and St. Charles to the Bensonville Bridge. That's traffic. I'm John.
At Leader
Oh,
by
yeah,
Stars,
Paula.
Spell by your
My friends
stars.
were
No
from
drink
Shaker.
needed, and it's easy.
That's
You'll
right.
get
My
a
prom
real
date was from
certified
Shaker.
offer
One of my
in
best
minutes.
friends in the
It's
world
seamless and
today.
transparent. Go to
They were all raised in Shaker.
leaderbystars.com.
They were all
Leader
raised in
by
Shaker.
Stars.
It's been a while since I gave myself a real.
My prom date was from
Susan and John are two
Shaker
kindred
Heights.
spirits who rediscovered the romance they deserve on Silver Singles.
Okay, the call-in number is 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. I hope you all will call in, Morning Stars.
Today at silversingles.com/date. That's silversingles.com/date.
A veteran's hope. Where are you hiding? I search for you in the seconds, the minutes of each, every day. Hear me as I call out to you. Welcome home. Alone we stood, divided we fell. No longer. Now we choose to make the connection. Our new mission.
Everybody call me at 773. Thank you, sweetie. Much love to you, Anthony. 773-763-9278. 773. Thank you. 773-763-9278.
Gun control. Time to have this fight.
We'll see what happens. WCPT 820.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the second hour of the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm Santita Jackson. I want to hear your voices today. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763. WCPT. It's Thursday, August 11th. We're talking about President Trump and this violent political atmosphere that we have now. It's been stirred up. Can he quell it? Is it about him? Is it not about him? Or is it about you and the pain that you're in? Is he your standard bearer? Do you feel he is speaking for you? Can he quell it? Should he quell it? Of course he should. But what can he do? What should he do? What will he do? We're going to talk about that on the Santita Jackson Show, so call me. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 76 degrees. It's partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 84 degrees, partly cloudy. The Dow closed up 535 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 360 points. The S&P 500 closed up 87 points. Major League Baseball. The Royals 8, the White Sox 3. The Cubs will be playing Cincinnati later on. And the Dodgers 8, the Twins 5. In the WNBA, the Lynx 86. And the Mercury 77. And the Sky will be playing the Aces later on tonight, everybody. Gas prices have now dropped below $4 a gallon for the first time since March, according to AAA. This comes after gas prices hit a new record high of $5.02 in June, and that's just an average. You know, in many places throughout the country, it went as high as $10 a gallon. So we will see how that will go. Former President Donald Trump invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and declined to answer questions from the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, at a scheduled deposition yesterday. Trump was supposed to be deposed by lawyers from the New York AG's office as part of a more than 3-year civil investigation into the Trump Organization's finances. The scheduled deposition comes during an extraordinary legal week for President Trump. On Monday, the FBI executed a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, his home, his primary residence in Florida, in connection with an investigation into the handling of classified documents. Of course, we're about to talk about that very, very, very shortly. Praying for our brothers and sisters in Indiana. 3 people died and 39 homes were damaged on Wednesday after a massive explosion in Evansville, Indiana. 11 of those 39 homes were left inhabitable, according to the fire department chief, Mike Connolly, adding that there could be additional victims upon the completion of their search. Praying for them. They still do not know the source of that explosion. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on Wednesday directed the IRS not to use any of the new funding allocated in the Democrats' new health care and climate bill to increase the number of audits of Americans making less than $400,000 a year, according to a copy of the letter obtained by CNN. The letter to IRS Commissioner Charles Reddick comes amid attacks from Republicans that the $80 billion the Inflation Reduction Act would give to the IRS over the next 10 years would result in more middle-class Americans and small businesses getting audited. What else do you think those 86,000 new or 87,000 new IRS agents are going to do? They're going to audit me and you. You know that's the truth. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Tragic story. Kobe Bryant's widow, Vanessa, is in court, everybody. She sobbed during a trial over her federal invasion of privacy suit. Her lawyer detailed how first responders shared photos of her husband, Kobe, and her daughter, Gigi, and all of the victims of the crash, but particularly theirs. Indeed, the images captured Kobe Bryant's, quote, decapitated body and were shared with strangers in bars and in private places, everybody. She claims that she suffered severe emotional distress. Of course she did. And her attorney claims she wants the officials involved to be held accountable. What do you think should happen? Who would share pictures like that of that man in his death and their child? It's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. So we pray for that family, everybody. Let's take a shift, everybody. You know I've been talking about our financial freedom, and I do mean it. I want you to call 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com. Who's that? That's Team Hochberg. If you faced bankruptcy, if you have high credit card debt, if you want to buy a home, if you feel that, if you know that you don't have the credit to get a home, if you know that you don't have the down payment for a home, they, after their first discussion with you, they can help you to formulate a plan. After this free consultation, then you will call them again and they will help you to formulate a plan to bring down your credit card debt. They will help you to formulate a plan to build your credit. Stop using that debit card. You got to get credit cards. They will put you on the road to getting a credit card. They will bring down this credit card debt. They will help you to establish the down payment for your home, all of these things. If you want to find out about getting a VA loan, a reverse mortgage, they will help you to do that. Tom and Sonia did that. They struggled to pay their 6% mortgage and the minimum payments on their 17 credit cards that carried $100,000 worth of debt, everybody. $100,000. They called Team Hochberg for a free consultation, and that put them on the road to freedom, everybody. They were able, through Team Hochberg, to secure an FHA loan, pay off their 17 credit card debts, 17 credit cards, and then Team Hochberg, helped reduce their credit card payments by more than $2,800 a month. That's right. So it could be you. There's no shame in it. Everybody's trying to make it, and we're all trying to keep our heads above water. Call Team Hochberg. It's 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com, so that you can be on the road to financial freedom, everybody. So let's get right to it. Before we get into this, I think we have Jewel on the line from New York. Is Jewel still there, Coach May?
She's not on the line. She just wanted to say hello.
Okay, well, Jewel wanted to say hello. I love you, Jewel, my girl, my girl, my girl. Sending you so much love today. And everybody, let's talk about political violence. Now, America is a very violent country. It is. Culturally, it is. It always has been. And right now, we are living in a moment that's very troubling. Of course, after the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago, former President Trump's primary residence, and thankfully he was not there, it seems that his supporters, and some people who might not have supported him, have become incited, and now they're excited. And many of his supporters are calling on him to announce that he's going to run for the presidency right now. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And many feel that this process has been politicized. Let me say this, and I've said this to you many, many, many times. Every indictment, every arrest, every investigation is political. Some people get protected, and some people are never left alone. Dr. King, throughout his 13-year public career, had to live with an IRS audit, a constant audit, and surveillance by the FBI. And it got to a point where Director Hoover called Dr. King into his office and threatened to expose his personal life. So the head of the FBI tried to blackmail him out of the movement. None of this is new. Now, was he trying to do that to the members of Congress? Well, he did that to the members of Congress. What am I talking about? But to the gangsters who he owed because he used to run to the racetrack and bet on the horses, no, he didn't mess with them. No. He messed with someone who was trying to help us all, not just Black Americans, but all Americans be free and enjoy liberty. So this is a political process, and more people know it. Now we're hearing cries from the right, the so-called right. But I don't think it's as simple as that. I think there's much more nuance involved. But what we do have now is a violent environment. We do have a sitting governor of the United States, Governor Whitmer from Michigan, who was going to be kidnapped last year. We did see this violent attack upon the Capitol, in which people were looking for Vice President Pence and Speaker Pelosi with a noose. They had planned to kill them that day. And on it is going, and it continues to ratchet up. You have some of President Trump's supporters saying, hey, I've got my ammo. In fact, more guns and ammunition have been purchased than at any other time in our history. So what are we talking about? What do we have going on here? So we've got Senator Lena Taylor from Wisconsin. They're coming off of an exciting primary this past week. We've got Attorney Darrell Jones, the chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition, one of our brilliant voting rights lawyers, and one of our brilliant lawyers, quite frankly. And we have got Dwight McKee. We're so excited. You're going to help us to set the table on this. And we've got Bryce Green, brilliant writer from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting. But let me start with you, Dwight McKee. Have we ever seen anything quite like this moment before?
Yeah, it was called the Civil War. This moment. It's when on several issues, states lined up to create their only independent position around the issues that they believed in, and was willing to go to war to protect those interests. So yeah, we've been here before. It's really ugly. We lost about 500,000 people doing that. But yeah, we've actually been here before.
You think it's as bad as that?
I think it's on the way there. I think it's the tone is that. I think that as they keep provoking the situation from the left and the right, I think it can go there. And if all you have to do is look at January 6th to see how far it can go, and to look at some of the responses of some of these militia groups to what happened to Trump the other day, and how they responded to put threats even on the FBI, how far they can go.
I mean, and it's interesting, Dwight. They know the agents who were part of the raid, and they're threatening them and their families personally, which I find interesting.
Yeah, it's when you look at what is happening with the people's mistrust of government, starting from Vietnam when the government lied to them, and then the Kennedy assassination and the government lied to them, and then the King assassination, the government lied to them, and the weapons of mass destruction, the government lied to them. There's just no trust in the government. 2 out of 10 people mistrust the government. So it's very...
No, 8 out of 10,
hard.
right?
Mm-hmm.
8 out of 10 mistrust the government. 2 out of 10 trust the government.
Yeah, 2 out of 10 trust the government. 8 out of 10 mistrust the government. So it's not hard to put in conspiracy theories because there's always already an inherent mistrust. And Trump understands that. And so he can manipulate the truth, but also Biden manipulates the truth. And so you have people, choosing between who is the most gifted liar and persuasive liar. And it's hard for a country that's split down the middle to not be swept up in that vortex. And that's kind of where we are right now.
Bryce Green, what are your thoughts? I mean, because you also are part of Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, and they've worked hard to shape the narrative, but now most Americans don't trust corporate media.
No, you're exactly right. Part of the reason that we're in such a violent situation, that we're in such a turbulent time in American history, is that there is no shared sense of fact in America. Is that the corporate media spend a lot of time, instead of providing context, understanding, and thoughtful discussion, they try and divide people. They try and make everything about which side of the aisle is the worst. They try to instill fear in the general population. And one of the things that came to mind when you sent me the topic of discussion today is that, yeah, we can tell that we're in a more violent society. We can tell that we're in a more violent era because our institutions have constantly failed us. Not only has the government been lying to us, not only do people mistrust the government, but it's also failing to protect us from a lot of the things that, we traditionally expect the government to do. There's a reason why Americans are one of the only developed countries in the world that has people go into debt to pay for insulin and to pay for other health care. Our animal needs aren't being met. And if they're not being met, then we can expect, our society to decay to some extent. You can expect that our human side is going to suffer because of that. People understand that their lives are being made worse. People understand that their standard of living is declining, and people don't understand why. And the corporate media, they don't trust the corporate media to tell them. And instead, they fall into all these different narratives, blaming their fellow Americans, blaming other people. And Trump is definitely a major part of this. But instead of looking at the real problems, the structures of capitalism that dominate our society, that impoverish us, they turn to their fellow Americans. They say, no, you're the enemy because, you're transgender. Or you're the enemy because you don't believe what I believe about certain things. And of course, we can't discount the role of U.S. intelligence agencies in ramping up this tension. You mentioned the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping case. Mm-hmm. Well, if you take a closer look at that case, the only reason that was able to happen was because the FBI had several informants. They had more informants than there were people who were actually arrested for this crime. The FBI informants that put this through, they instigated this plot. They helped guide the people. They helped lead the people. And then they entrapped them, essentially. And this is a tactic that you saw during the war on terror. There you'd see all these terrorism arrests. And it turns out they were all just, mentally ill teenagers that the FBI picked up in some mosque. And then they said, hey, we can give you a bomb. And so that's something that we can't discount, is that the FBI and other intelligence agencies are counting on creating this strategy of tension for whatever reason.
What do you say, Attorney Darrell Jones?
Well, Santita, I think all that I've heard is very consistent with what's happening. What we understand is that it's just a very violent era. And then, it's almost like President Trump, former President Trump, benefits from all of the confusion that he's trying to create. You're creating confusion. You're creating confusion with the Oath Keepers, with the Proud Boys, with the 3%ers. The attack on January the 6th is creating confusion. It's like the more confusion that's being created, the stronger he believes that he's becoming, because he's going to try to position himself as the person that can stop the confusion. And so, now when we add on the Mar-a-Lago raid that was done by the FBI, but they're stringing that, and I believe Dwight McKee so masterfully called it. They're playing that tune now as a part of this conspiracy theory against the very people that are the focus of all of this, what has caused all of this. And the question is, for the American people, how do we dissect all of this? How do we begin to take it apart? How do we begin to understand it? How do we begin to correct it? Because it's a horrible narrative right now that's being written. And I, Santita, do not underwrite and understand appreciably that this has the ability of not just having the national focus, but we know that there could be international players that will be stoking these fires as well. We know that in Russia, that they're picking up many of the lines that are being used in the Republican Party, talking about the whole insurrection and the fight that's going on in Congress, and that it's a setup and all this other stuff. So there's a whole international aspect that could influence our community's view of what's happening and just stem that confusion. And this is the perfect time, of course, to do it when you're going into the midterm and to the general election. So that's what I see happening, and that's a big part of the concern that I have right now. And the question becomes, how do we stem this? How do we control this? How do we get a hold of this and correct the course of this ship? Because right now it looks like it's just going free willing.
Well, I think that we can get a hold of it and understand it. If we can we should bring John Bolton on, because he's the one who says he's directed coup d'etats. I mean, we're doing to others what has been done. What's being done to us is what we have done to others, right? I mean, we have overthrown governments, democratically elected governments. We participated in the killing of Patrice Lumumba, and on and on and on, and the assassination of Mark Clark and Fred Hampton. I mean, we have done these things. We know how to do that. John Bolton told you. He said, look, yeah, I planned coup d'etat. That's what I do. Ouch. And now we're shocked that this Iranian has plotted to kill him. Look, you can't treat people this way, everybody. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff is backing up on us. I mean, Senator Taylor, I'm going to let you speak extensively on the other side. But, I mean, we're doing to others what has been done to us. And what we've done, we're doing to others. What's happening to us is what we've done to others. We just have to acknowledge that. Dwight, I got a minute before we go. What do you think? Because you have lived through this. You knew Fred Hampton. You knew Mark Clark. You went out and you were looking for Bobby Rush when he was the most wanted man in America in the immediate aftermath of Fred Hampton's assassination. He was on the run, and we had to find him. And you had to bring him back to my parents' apartment, and then we took him to the Saturday morning meeting where he surrendered to the police in front of 3,000 people. Dwight, I got 1 minute.
Well, yeah, we couldn't find him. He was able to sneak out and get in the trunk of somebody's car and come to your parents' house and spend the night and turn himself in on the threat of death, because this was the FBI. I talked to Hanrahan one time. I had one about a youth division meeting with Bush. And Hanrahan said, I need to tell you all, yeah, I was involved in the killing of Fred Hampton, but the FBI set me up. They gave me misinformation. They set me up to believe that he was a real revolutionary. And so I was used by them. They plot to assassinate. I don't want you all to state that or tell anybody, but the fact of the matter is, I was raised by them. So if you look at it, you look at a whole culture of people who felt like that it is their mandate to run the world, that whatever might is right, whatever they do is the right thing to do. And now, as Malcolm said, the chickens are coming home to roost. Oof. And the real hard part of it is now not only are the other governments that they've misled turning on them, but many of their own people who feel misled are turning on them.
Everybody, let's talk about it. I want to know what your thoughts are. What about this violence in the air? Is there anything that President Trump can do to quell it? Or will he be the accelerant that he has been? And really, he's been the exploiter. And we've seen this happen. I mean, and a lot of these people accelerate this violence, and they do it in a way they're smoother than he is. But he's just speaking to a spirit that's already out here, everybody. We need to talk about that on the Santita Jackson Show, 773-763-9278. Back in a minute.
to stop
Thank
these
you
attacks
all so
immediately.
much.
The ban on Russian oil imports.
And it will come from Russia. Yep.
News that happens next.
No problem. No problem. Happy to be here.
Oh yeah, it's this is a lot. So I think we have a hot mess here.
And lakes are usually equated
And
with
I'm
summertime
going to duck.
Alan Korn from Safe Kids Worldwide, a
Honey,
nonprofit group.
I
that
think it's
aims
going to get
prevent
much
accidental
uglier.
childhood injury.
Hey,
Says
Stephen,
parents should
I think it's
exercise
going to get
caution.
much uglier before it gets any better.
Of
Sadly.
accidental injury, drowning is the second
I
leading
really, really
killer
do.
of kids in this country, right behind motor vehicle
Unbelievable.
crashes.
So what do you
And that
all
includes
think?
open
We're on
body
Facebook
water,
Live, just so
pools,
that you know.
spas, hot tubs, and even in some cases,
Arlene
the
says,
drowning in the
divided
home
we
bathtub.
fall. That's true.
And about 800 kids die each
that's
year,
true.
with many of them happening.
And
obviously,
what D-Ray says that Trump is not going to do anything but sit back and
Never leave a
grin.
child unattended in a pool or spa.
Wow.
And always watch your child. when he or she
773-763-9278, everybody. Why don't you all
Teach
call
children
in?
Basic water safety tips.
So,
And keep
I mean,
kids
what do
away
you think
from
is going to
pool
happen,
drains,
Daryl?
pipes,
I mean,
and other openings to
well,
avoid in traffic.
anything?
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
Well, I think that a large part of what's going to happen is that if you're former President Trump, you like what you're seeing. You like the confusion that's being created. And it's from that confusion that he's going to be able to try to, retake his position and say, I'm the one who can calm everyone down.
Okay, hold on one second. Postman, can you bring that down just a bit? I'm trying to hear what Attorney Jones was saying. But what, Attorney Jones?
Yeah, I think that, former President Trump benefits from all the confusion. And the more confusion there is, the more he can try to lift himself up and say, I can calm the confusion down. And not that I am the creator of the confusion.
But there's a school of thought. They have also been promoting that out of the World Economic Forum. The chaos, the great reset, if you will. A lot of people have been benefiting from this chaos and confusion. I mean, like a lot of people have been, inflation it's not just happening organically. These corporations are profiteering. And no one's speaking to that. The president should be speaking to that. But the presidency itself is no longer free. I mean, we've got some problems here. I mean, what did Kennedy say just before he was killed?
Certainly problems here.
Hmm?
And a lot of framing issues and communication issues really coming from the White House as well.
Oh, absolutely.
They're trying to correct that shit. But that's a large part still.
Yeah, I mean, I think of Kennedy saying that he was going to reveal all of these secret societies that were enslaving Americans. He was not here much longer after that. There was so much, as I've been looking at these documentaries and reading these books, that, Oliver Stone has really, really pushed the envelope on this. It's, he was really a different kind of guy. And they got him out of here. And then they got his brother out of here. Those assassinations are connected. And a lot of people lost a lot of faith.
Paid for by Willie Wilson for mayor.
In our system behind that.
Is the Biden administration. They're also sort of fueling this by fueling the right-wing paranoia. Last year, Merrick Garland, Attorney General, he released these new guidelines for what constitutes
20 seconds
terrorism, and it had a lot of things that included just like right-wing ideology. It was part of this ramp-up of domestic terrorism.
10 seconds.
What's that going to do? That's going to inflame all these right-wingers, all these right-wing militiamen who have been warning about domestic terror crackdown.
Well, stand by, because I want you to go into that, but I'm going to go to Senator Taylor first.
Ms. Jackson, we actually, hold on. We have two callers on the line, and I'm going to put Chapril through right now.
Okay, well, let me know who the callers are.
Jackson Show.
Okay.
I texted them, so
okay, very good.
Whenever you get a chance. Yep.
Save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, talking about this chaotic, really violent environment in which we are all living right now. And so we got to talk about that. You all like my little lady who's right here up this. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she lovely? Absolutely. Hey, call me at
Chappelle's on.
773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Let us talk about what is going on with this chaos, with this violence. Uh, can President Trump, former President Trump, do anything to quell it? Will he? He's been an accelerant thus far, but I don't know if he's capitalized on it, Daryl Jones, as much as he has. I don't know if he's created it as much as he has capitalized on it.
We
I
have
mean,
Chappelle on.
because he is an absolute marketer. He's a marketer. He got the low hanging fruit. Bernie Sanders had the progressives. Um, uh, Hillary Clinton had the women. Most of us. And he went and got, ethno-nationalists and people who were really struggling. But remember, 2/3 of his voters made $50,000 a year or more. So this whole narrative about him being the hero of the white working class is just not true. I want to talk about that too. So let's get the facts straight. But first we're going to go to celebrations by us. Chapearl, what's going on, my girl? You're on vacation this week, but as of Monday, you'll be back making this food.
Yes, I will be. Celebrations by Us is your one-stop party connection. And we are currently on vacation, but we'll be back on the 15th to take care of all of your party needs. So whether it is your food or full decor, we can handle it all for you. So we do sweet tables, we do balloon arches, as well as also your custom treats. So don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546. That's 708-526-4546. Thanks so much, Santita.
Absolutely. I had great oxtails this weekend. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Oh, before we go to Paul from Seattle and from Reese from here in Chicago, I want to go to you, Senator Lena Taylor from Wisconsin. What are you seeing up there? I mean, because now you all are making some history up in Wisconsin. You have Mandela Barnes, 35-year-old lieutenant governor, who is the Democratic nominee. Everybody just laid down and said, we want him to be our guy. But Wisconsin is a very interesting state. It's very much, it's like it's the Midwest. You have militia people, and then you have the universities, and the liberals and the progressives. I mean, it's a both and kind of state. It's some of everything. What about the violence? What about it? Is there anything that you think that former President Trump can do to quell it, or is this beyond him?
I question if he wants to quell it based on January 6th and based on the base that he seems to have generated. I don't know if he wants to quell it. And so I think, the other panelists have spoke to the issue spot on. And I just want to lay a little foundation here. I mean, in Wisconsin, we are a state that has some of the greatest divides. We have the most segregated cities in the nation, 2 of them at least. We have some of the worst disparities in the nation for the difference between black and white, and some of the worst disparities for Black people in regards to health outcomes, education, incarceration. And so per capita, those rates really stand out. So we also had uprisings that happened related to criminal justice issues. I mean, before, there was an Eric Garner saying, "I can't breathe." We had a Derek Williams in the back of a squad car saying, "I can't breathe," while an officer sat in the front passenger seat, hearing him say that and allowed him to suffocate in the back. We've had shootings and, where individuals were shot, 15 times for sleeping on a park bench. So there are just some challenges that exist here. And then we have Jacob Blake that was shot 7 times in the back in front of his children, while going to his vehicle against the direction of the police officer And as a result of that, he's paralyzed for life. And the uprising ended up, causing great damage in the Kenosha area. And it is part of what the ads are fueled with in the gubernatorial race already. And so you take all of that and you put on top of it, we're going to have the RNC convention in our first class city, our largest city, Milwaukee, the place that I was born and raised. So that's a lot to put in a pot that's already everything the panelists have already said. It's going to create, I think, a greater level of divide. I think it's going to incite things at levels that I'm just going to say I'm concerned. They're already suggesting, that the new sheriff who made history as the first African-American woman to become a sheriff of our largest county, whether or not she's quote unquote, prepared, even though she's, been in law enforcement for 30 years, whether or not she's prepared to lead. It brings concern about how these powder kegs are going to, coexist without being ignited in ways that's worse than January 6th. And the senator that's running against the young rising star in Wisconsin that is now the candidate for the Democratic side for the U.S. Senate seat, Mandela Barnes, the senator that Mandela is running against, Ron Johnson, made it a point to say, well, he didn't have any concern about the people that came on January 6th, but if they were Black, then he might have had concern. So that is all going to be fueled. So I'm concerned, not only, I think the question was, will or, can former President Trump deal with, what could be incited? And my question is, does he even want to? Or is that part of the fueling of that kind of energy to get his base to come out to vote? Because I'm here to tell you, during the primary, more than 500,000 voted, on the Republican side, and not quite 400 on the Democratic side. So there are concerns about who's being inspired to vote, and concerns about, what this will look like, especially during the RNC.
And let me go to Paul from Seattle. Paul, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Santita. Can we please just not refer to him as president? Donald John Trump is about to be indicted criminal, and America will not stand to be threatened by his violent mob. So whatever they want to say about that, okay, we're going to have a civil war if you indict him. Justice cannot stand to be threatened, and we will not tolerate it. I mean, how can you stand up? How can you? The stories of Emmett Till and of Ahmaud
Arbery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How can we talk about these stories this week, and then at the same time juxtapose that with fears of threats by the right wing mob of Donald Trump? I won't hear it. I won't stand for it. Who's energized is us. We are energized because we have had legislative wins this week and last week. We are energized because our rights have been threatened by a politicized Supreme Court. We are energized. We have victory. And I'll tell you what, in terms of who's going to stand with Donald Trump as he goes down, nobody.
Well, but see, I think the challenge that you have, Paul, is that the numbers are not quite there. The fact is, his candidates have been winning overwhelmingly all season long. The corporate media have chosen not to share that. And so I think that while we are energized, his people are incited and they are excited. We're not as much. Now, while we're racking up some wins, the fact is, I think that you have to pay attention to both. It's not an either or, it's a both and. And I don't share these facts with you to bring you down. I bring them up so that you can be lifted up with the information. because you need to know the kind of battle that we have out here. And I think it's more nuanced than a right-wing mob who is standing with President Trump. It's a lot more nuanced than that. Everybody who stands with President Trump is not a white supremacist. They're not hating black people. January 6th, they were not looking for the CBC or the Progressive Caucus. They were looking for Nancy Pelosi and Mike Pence. There's a lot going on here. And what I try to do on this show is examine the issues that are underneath the surface so that we can get to it. You are not going to get well if the medicine does not attack the cause. So I think we should remain excited. I think that the Democrats ought to be registering people to vote, which they are not doing. I think that the Democrats ought to be doing a lot of things. They should be pushing the wins that they have. They have not been doing that. And so as someone who loves them and who loves the country, I'm going to bring all that up so that we can win. Because President Biden's numbers are softening in the black community. There's a reason for that. I'm not afraid to bring that up. We've got to bring it up and talk about it. So he can be bolstered. He needs to have an executive order on voting rights. Number one, so we can get to the polls. That's going to be a problem. I mean, these people, most of the states now have passed laws that restrict our access to the voting booth. That's a problem. It's a problem. You see, I mean, what's happening very quickly before I go to Reese from Chicago. What's happening with you? If you are sick and shut in, no one can vote for you in Wisconsin. Is that not true, Senator Taylor?
If you can't take your ballot to the polls yourself, then you're going to have your absentee ballot. You're going to have, or get up and go to the poll yourself. You're going to have a problem participating in our democracy and casting your vote based on, the Supreme Court ruling that doesn't allow for these absentee ballots to be collected in boxes outside of the normal polling locations or the normal sites that are down with city government. And I want to speak to something that your caller said that I think is so important. Listen, I'm a Democrat. I'm a legislator. I'm an attorney. I live on the block that I grew up on. I vote Democrat and I fight with the Democrats and for the Democrats. But truth is something that has to be stated. So although the gentleman said what he did, I just watched a lieutenant governor candidate who had been preparing for at least 2 years for a run for governor. She had been preparing from the moment that she and Scott Walker lost the election to run for governor. I watched a last-minute candidate get in who was endorsed by Trump, who boldly said it in his ad, day one, who said he wasn't doing nothing for immigrants, no benefits, nothing for immigrants, and it's not racist. That's what he said in his ad. I watched him not put his address down appropriately on his nomination papers and still be allowed to be on the ballot. And I watched him beat that candidate that had been preparing for more than 2 years. And I watched endorsed candidate, the Trump endorsed candidate in my state in the assembly take on the speaker of the assembly, and the speaker won by 160 votes. So the caller can say what he wants, but I'm speaking about the reality of what we're dealing with. We are the state where, when they were going to kidnap the judge and do something, they were going to do the trial in Wisconsin and determine how they were going to deal with her after the trial that they were going to have with quote in Wisconsin. Those were some Wisconsinites that were a part of that. So, my brother, the reality is that, yes, in some states, like Wisconsin, there's some concern about the rise or the lack of fall of Trump and what is happening right now.
And Trumpism. Let me go to Reese from Chicago. Reese, what's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going today?
It's great hearing your voice.
You know what? I get such great panels and such great guests today. I don't know where to start. I'll tell you, somebody stole my thunder, and he said exactly what I was going to say, which is important that we remember as the worm turns. Malcolm X said it straight. He said, listen, Americans, you're going to have to pay, basically. It's like, you can't do what you've done all over the world for the history of America and expect it not to come back to home. The chicken's coming home to roost. Now, how it's going to happen, we really don't know. But I can tell you this, Trump does have a whole lot of power because he exposed the underbelly of America. And this is what America really is. And the good white folks, so to speak, who are supposed to be on our side, are sitting back and watching it happen. They're the ones with the blinders on. They're thinking, you know what, this is impossible to happen. No, it's not either.
Well, let me ask you this, Reese, because you're going somewhere with this. Do you then understand why he's gaining some traction in the Black community and in the Latino community? Okay, I hear something in the background, everybody. Okay. Reese?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, do you understand then why he is gaining some traction, just given what you said? Okay, everybody, I can hear something in the background. It's a sound.
That's Reese's phone.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. I have to take my, I'm on my car speakerphone.
Okay, no, that's okay, but just very quickly. Do you see what, then wherever the sound is coming from, please put them on mute. But let me hear you, Reese. I mean, do you understand why he's gaining some traction in the Black and brown communities?
Because people are tired of the shit and steal. They want action.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, I hear you.
Filibuster is one thing. That's number one, right there. Actually, you have the power, and you're not doing anything. Why are you sitting back? Save the people, not the party. I love that.
Hey, that's where I am. Save the people, not the party. Just because that's the party's supposed to stand for the people, and that's just where we have to be.
We're more interested in. They are more interested in saving their own hide than getting out there and doing the work of the people, and that's all I got to say.
Well, I think but that's part of the challenge of being in power. You get so accustomed to the prerogatives of power that you forget your mission. And it's very human. It happens all the time. And we're the ones who have to remind people because, this government is of, for, and by us. The part of the problem is us too, because we're not doing our part. We're not voting and we're not holding the elected officials accountable and corporations accountable. We ought to be picketing against big oil right now. Because they arbitrarily reset these prices, and they're saying, "Oh, because gas is $5 a gallon, we ought to be cheering at $4 a gallon." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? No! It should go back to $2.50 where it was." Because you all just setting us afire, and getting our money just because you can. But Reese, I need to go to the rest of the panel. You can stay here for a hot second because we're going to be talking just a little bit longer when we get off the air. Bryce. What do you have to see? What do you have to say about this? We were talking during the commercial break, about the breakdown in the trust. And Bryce, talk to me.
Right. Part of the breakdown in the trust, it seems to be pushed by some aspects of our own government. What I mentioned earlier about how the FBI was integral in creating and fueling the Gretchen Whitmer kidnap plot. And, when they exposed it, a lot of people on the left, they were like, well, yes, ramp up domestic terrorism operations against the right wing, while a lot of people on the right were extremely distrustful, and they learned very quickly about the FBI involvement. And so it seems to be a strategy of dividing the country. I couldn't tell you exactly why they would do that, but the only analog I can think of is the years of lead in Italy with the strategy of tension, where government forces deliberately antagonized the public. They scared them so that the public would then accept harsher security measures, accept greater state control. I don't know to what extent that government agencies are fueling some of the divide in America, but we definitely see examples of it. This FBI raid, for example, it's unprecedented. It's unprecedented. Trump is, obviously a crook, but powerful people are very often protected from scrutiny, and so that Trump is being gone after now. That's a sign that there's a shift in power. That's a sign that there are political forces that are conspiring to do something. There were people who said that this is clearly not political. The FBI wouldn't have gotten a search warrant because if there wasn't anything big. The idea that the FBI isn't political is just a joke. I mean, it's just a joke. You mentioned all the stuff with J. Edgar Hoover and Martin Luther King and the political persecution and
which is ongoing.
Political intrigue. It's ongoing. And to suggest that the FBI is an apolitical organization and that they had nothing and they had only the best intentions when launching this raid, I think is very naive. Mm-hmm. And so we have to look at the forces that keep us divided. We have to look at the forces that keep us distracted from the real issues, who distract us from the real enemies, the enemies of corporate power. And
and stay right there, Bryce, because we have to go beyond whether we like President Trump or not. You have to go beyond the person and get to the principle. The FBI has behaved as a political police force. They've done it to the left. They've done it to the right. And if the left and the right can see that clearly and not make this personal, we can make some real change. Because what happens to me eventually happens to you. That's the point I try to make every single day. That's why I don't personalize my politics. When I was young and less seasoned, I personalized it. One of the things I learned from Reverend Jackson, he said, don't personalize this. This is not personal. This is, and you've learned it too, Senator Taylor. It's like, this is not personal. This is about principle. Period. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's all.
This is not just.
Dwight, I've got a minute, literally.
Yeah, I'm saying, but this is not just on Trump's side. I mean, when you look at what Pelosi did last week by knowing she was going to antagonize China, by going over to Asia and antagonizing China and driving them more toward a Russian connection. Almost unnecessarily, you wonder why would she do that, knowing the provocation that was going to come out of that. It was Rahm Emanuel who said that they need to take advantage of chaos.
A Democrat.
See, a Democrat who said it was a strategy of stealing to benefit, to create the markets against chaos. He invests in companies to create chaos. So it's not just the Trump crowd that does that. It's almost how the government operates on both sides. Mm-hmm. It is how the government operates
as a whole, because it's not just two sides. It's you've got two representations of culture, but this is a lot bigger than that. They play that. If you notice, there was back in the 70s, Dwight. You remember Mr. Strauss, who was chairman of the Democratic Party, and then he became chairman of the Republican Party. Remember that, Dwight?
I do remember that.
You can't make this stuff up, everybody. Yeah, there was a man who was chair of each party. You have Joe Lieberman, who floated between both parties. They wanted to put him on the Republican or the Democrat, and they did put him on the Democratic ticket. How could that happen? What? So let's start thinking, everybody. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show on YouTube. Santita Jackson Show. I'm going to have whoever I can keep from my panel just to answer, just to extend this conversation and really close it properly. But I love you, everybody. Hope that you have a wonderful day. And tell somebody you love that you love them and mean it. God bless you, everybody. Until tomorrow, I'm Santita Jackson. Bryce, who's still there? Because I wanted.
Everyone's still here.
Okay, Bryce, I wanted you to complete your thought. I'm sorry.
I don't even remember the thought.
No. I mean, I think that we get so caught up in parties that we miss what's going on here, and that is very concerning to me.
Yeah, we get caught up in trying to blame either the Republicans or trying to blame the Democrats, but we don't blame the oligarchy that controls both of them.
Absolutely.
There's no other country in the world that's as business dominated as the United States. And there's no other country in the world that has both parties dominated by the business sector. I mean, we cannot vote against the interests of Goldman Sachs. You can't vote against the interests of Comcast, against Disney, against Northrop Grumman, against all these giant corporations that dominate our lives and make it worse. We can't vote against that. And instead, what they do is they try to get us to fight against each other rather than against them. So we go after people for useless things. We start getting suspicious of our fellow Americans. And we start labeling them as evil. We start labeling them as the problem. Meanwhile, Mr. Monopoly Man is running away with the money bag.
Absolutely. I mean, does anyone have any response to that? Attorney Jones, Dwight McKee, Senator Taylor? I mean, wait a minute. Senator Taylor, are you still there?
I am. For a few more moments with you, yes.
I wanted you to respond to Vicki Wells, who's, part of the Morning Stars. Love you, Vicki. She said, I'm sorry, but we are working too hard to let Senator Taylor misrepresent what happened in the Wisconsin primary. Democratic turnout was lower because Governor Evers and Mandela Barnes, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, are unopposed. Michaels won because he was brought in. Because someone brought him in and because they did not think a woman could win. Had less to do with Trump. Primary wins are not general election wins. Tim Michaels will lose to Governor Evers in a landslide. Will he lose to Governor Evers in a landslide?
So, Ms. Vicki, first thing I want to say is I happen to live on the block I grew up on, so I have no reason to misrepresent what's happening in my state. My career as a lawyer and as a elected official surely doesn't warrant a reason for me to want to do that either. Mandela Barnes was opposed until a little less than 2 weeks from the election when 3 of the candidates bowed out of the election. However, there still were 3 others that were in the race. So I think misrepresentation of that fact is crucial. In addition to that, we had a very not only a very contested U.S. Senate race in Milwaukee County, the largest city in the largest county. We had not only aldermanic races that were happening, but we also had several races at the top of the ticket at the county. We had a clerk, county clerk position, and we also had a sheriff position. So no, there was not a contested person for Governor Evers. However, there surely was a lot of energy and had been up until less than 2 weeks before the election and the ads and all of that. So yes, you are right that we have higher turnout in the general elections, but I also want to be clear that Governor Evers won by less than 30,000 votes when he won the first time, and former President Trump, he won by less than 24,000 votes. So these are very close elections that happen in Wisconsin, and what I'm doing is not misrepresenting the truth, but trying to speak about what the truth is so that we can encourage individuals to vote. But that won't happen if we are not addressing the needs of the people. And what happened with the Michaels race is an important component because that means that Trumpism has a little more I don't want to say power, but I'm going to.
It does have more power. People,
momentum.
We can't
They
ignore
have
the
more
obvious.
momentum.
I mean, come on. It doesn't mean that we can't overcome it. It doesn't mean we can't fight it and win, Senator Taylor. But the fact is, to act as if someone who got 74, 75 million votes is powerless is crazy. You're not looking at the facts, y'all. You're not. I mean, someone who won 74, 75 million votes and someone who won 81 million votes, but he's the most unpopular president in modern times. Hello? And what we tried to do with President Biden is say, hey, give us the executive. We asked you for the executive order on voting rights, on justice and policing, et cetera. Give it to us and you can be saved. But right now you are on a losing agenda. You're not helping yourself. Black people have grown in their politics. They want some deliverables and they're demanding them. And I think you should still vote. You must vote. When you don't vote, you've cast a vote. That having been said, once you vote, it can't end there. You can't get soft. You did that with Obama. You said, I'm going to leave him alone because I want him to stay in office. Stay in office to do what? Veg? No. People have to deliver for you or you have to get them out. Period. People, and you have to make them deliver for you. Period. You know that if you have a whole bunch of people showing up at your office, you're going to say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? Am I not right, Senator Taylor?
Gonna be right out there trying to figure out what's going on and how to solve the problems. You got to listen to the people and you got to give the people what they want.
Okay. I'm just asking you.
They want to be heard. They want to be heard. They want to be able to have things addressed. And so, do I believe that Michaels is going to, lose against Evers? I'm going to be working for it every day. But I'm not naive to what I just saw happen. That man shouldn't even been on the ballot because he did not have his nomination papers right. But the election commission allowed him to stay on the ballot. So now we got to deal with our reality. He came in and totally wiped out the candidate that had been working on being the governor for more than 2 years.
And he could because of President Trump's on the ground power. He has not stopped running since he lost. Okay? And the other Democrats we see show up every now and then, wave. No. Y'all got to keep running. You got to see Obama all the time. You got to see Michelle all the time. They're the most two popular Democrats. And that's what they ought to be doing. If you're serious about Democrats holding on to power. That's what's required. That has been established. Reverend showed you how to do it in the 80s. He came out of the 84 campaign and he kept on running. That is why the Democrats were able to recapture the Senate at the height of the Reagan Revolution. It didn't just happen. He kept registering people to vote. He kept campaigning and rolled into the midterms. And we were able to roll tide, if you will. That's what is required. You can't shoot your way into power. That's not how this works, darling. No. Bryce, what your thoughts?
I just agree. I agree. The way to gain power is to mobilize the people, is to mobilize the public. You're right about Reverend Jackson. You can't confine your political activity to the spectacle that occurs every 4 years. Your political activity has to be ongoing. It has to be constant. Otherwise, it's almost meaningless. It's easy to corral people into parades of slogans and pre-digested sound bites. That's relatively straightforward to do. The hard thing to do is to keep people engaged in some effective fashion in between those competitions. And once we're able to do that, I think we'll be, on the right path. But right now we seem to be too distracted and too divided to even start with something like that.
Daryl Jones, your thoughts. I mean, where do we go from here with all of this? You and Barbara Arnwine are fighting day in and day out really working to save the vote, and yet we're not getting help from the White House. You know, we need an executive order for our voting rights. They're rolling back our voting rights state by state. If you're sick and shut in Wisconsin, you can't vote. What if you have COVID? I guess you're just supposed to go out in the streets and just spread it. Is that it? Attorney Jones, are you still there? It's just, this is crazy. It's crazy. Dwight, give me some of your closing thoughts before we all go.
I mean, you all have summed it up. It's a contact sport, and you have to keep fighting. But you have to fight with your eyes open. You know, you can't fight evenly. And you have to understand that you have two parties, both of them trying to hold on to power at your expense. And that when Douglas said that power concedes nothing without a demand, without a fight, he wasn't talking about the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. He was talking about power on both sides. You have to fight the good fight in order for you to get your piece of the pie, for you to make your voice heard, for you to be part of the politics that rule your life. Otherwise, you're just going to be the pawn of somebody else who's manipulating you in their own interest.
Amen to that. Senator Taylor, you want to take us out?
It's nothing else to be said.
Mic drop on that. You know, look, everybody, you're who you are waiting for. But you need to understand how the system really works, why it was created, how it was created, what it does not do. So I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer for anybody. What I try to do is give you the information so you can start thinking for yourself. I don't want to think for you. You don't need me to do that. You don't need anyone to do that. You need to think for yourself. You can't be too busy to do business. You can't be that busy. Otherwise, you just need to call it a day, get a monarchy, and let somebody else run the thing. No, we have a republic, which means we are in charge. Okay? We're trying to become we have democratic aspects, but we're a republic, a constitutional republic. That's a big deal. And you need to know that, but they're not teaching that in school anymore. But you need to know how important it is that, hey, I think Queen Elizabeth is nice, and I'm glad she's a visitor. Okay? You know, that's why, I look at Prince Harry and his wife, the Duchess, and I go, okay, so you all involved in our political process, how and why? Because unless you become an American citizen, and unless Meghan Markle, I don't want a Duchess. Either you're going to be a Duchess or you're going to be a citizen. You can't be both. That does not work for me. I think royalty is fine, but not in this system. In this system, we run things, not the Queen, and not the City of London, which is where all the banks are. We do this. We do it. And right now, the right wing and the left wing, if they can come together and agree on some basic things about how the system ought to work, then I think we can get somewhere. Get over who you believe Trump is and is not. Please get over that. Get over that. Don't make it personal. We don't even know what he's charged with, and y'all mad with him and hate him. What he's dealing with in New York is not about anything that has anything to do with the presidency. It has everything to do with his business practices, which they have let go. They've let him go and do his thing for 40 plus years. He's been able to borrow billions from banks that he's not had to repay. Are you kidding me? That's a personal issue. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Nothing. And it has nothing to do with you. While people are cheering on, look, you're going to get him. Get him for what? And you don't want to get these other elected officials who have robbed you blind? Please, let us grow up in our politics, everybody. All of these arrests and indictments and investigations are all political in nature. That's all. And they only go after people, for the most part, And I'm going to say I'm not going to put President Trump in this basket, but I'm going to say this. They go after people who want to help people. The people who stand for the oligarchy and the monarchy, they let them go. And then their children run for office and on and on and on. Isn't it interesting? No one very few of us from the civil rights basket run for office. They don't want us to take that forward because it might help somebody. Think about that. Think about that. Please. So let's grow up, everybody. Let's grow up, grow up, grow up. And we're the ones who have to decide that we do not want to have a violent society. But if those who seek to be violent, you need to find out what's on their minds. Don't just call them white racist, because all of that is not exactly true for many of them. I'm not saying for most, I'm not saying for all. But a lot of people like President Trump for a lot of different reasons, including Black people who are not self-loathing people, including Latinos who are not self-loathing people. People like him for different reasons, and you need to find out why. People like Biden for different reasons, and you need to find out why. Some people just said, I'm just going to vote for him because. You need to find out why. Does anyone else have anything else to say before we go? Dwight or Senator Taylor? Hello? Is that it? Are we done? Okay. Well, I love you, Coach May. Thank you for a great show. Senator Taylor, as always, you are on fire. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all that you are doing.
Thanks for having me on. Have a good
Bryce,
day.
do you have anything else you want to say, darling? I didn't know you were still there. Hey.
No. I'm just saying thanks for having me on.
Oh, please. Got to have you back. Go on and speak that truth.
Absolutely.
Go on and speak that truth, because we have to help people to understand that there are so many layers to this. You know, there's so many layers to this, and it's not just, it's not about hating Trump. And please don't listen to the mainstream media as they tell you who to like and who to hate. Please don't do that. Oh my gosh, because that's part of the response that we have here. We just don't like him. You don't know what he stands for. You don't even know what he's been charged with. He's a crook. That's all I know. No, you don't. You can't even tell me what he's been charged with. And I am no Trump apologist. I'm just saying I am from a family that has been lied on for a long time. I remember as a child, Dwight and Bryce and Senator Taylor, we had been ice skating, and a parent, not the original parent who was supposed to be driving us home, was driving us home and dropping us all off. She did not know I was Reverend Jackson's daughter. And you remember, Dwight, the rumor for years that we lived in Pill Hill, which is where the doctors lived in Chicago. Well-to-do neighborhood. And as we were driving through Pill Hill, because a couple of the people who had gone skating with us were from Pill Hill. As we rode by, she pointed out, she said, now Reverend Jesse Jackson lives over there. It was like, and I had enough sense not to say that, no, that's not where we live. Because I knew I had been trained, even as someone who was 8 or 9 years of age, that if someone was going to say that they didn't like us very much, and I needed to keep my mouth shut and just get out and wait until I could get out the car. How about that? Oh, I was like, please, we didn't live in Pill Hill at all. But there you have it. So everybody, please, let's start paying attention and let's really look at what's going on here. You need to be in Big Oil's face and Big Pharma's face, charging you up the wazoo for your medicine, charging you up the wazoo arbitrarily for your gas, while the World Economic Forum came out and said that we are discouraging private car ownership because it encourages personal freedom. Oh, they said it. That's not me. I'm not a conspiracist. They said it. Now, come on. Is that okay with you? Think about that. I love you, everybody. Cannot wait to see you. Yeah, well, you know, Paul, we did have to put up with a lot. We did. We did. And that's the price you pay for the space that we were in. And that's the price that we keep paying. And it is what it is. What you going to do? As my father said, we're still here. By the grace of God, we are still here. So Bryce and Dwight and Senator Lena Taylor from the great state of Wisconsin, thank you so much for being with us today. Postmate, thank you for a great show. Love you, everybody. Paula, yes, I do have things today. Laura, Jewel, love you more, girl. And Paul Robert, you said you thought we lived in Pill Hill. See, just a rumor. And if we lived in Pill Hill, so what? My father went to college. He went to school. He hasn't stolen anybody's money. If we lived there, and what? No. Are we supposed to take a vow of poverty to help people in poverty? No. I've pledged to help you get out of poverty. And I want to eliminate poverty. I want to eradicate it. I'm not supposed to be there myself. What's that about? Come on. No, but for the record, we did not live in Pill Hill. No, we didn't. But like I said, looking back on it as an adult, if we did live in Pill Hill, so what? So what? So what? But, my parents didn't, that's not where we lived, and that's that. So, love you, everybody. Can't wait to be with you. Have a magnificent day. That's right, Miss Robinson. Love you, everybody. Have a great one. God bless.